G'day guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I thought I would do a Q&A on this Square Golf launch monitor. I've been getting a lot of questions come through, not only private DMs, but also on the Facebook page, on the YouTube channel. I've just been getting a lot of questions about the Square Golf launch monitor. So what I thought I'd do is I'd just put out a Q&A to the members of the Facebook group, and shout out to the Facebook group. If you're not a member of the Facebook group, definitely jump on, sign up, become a member, because ultimately, if you've got any questions about launch monitors, you've got any questions about, how to connect launch monitors to GS Pro, if you've got questions, technical questions about you having issues with Bluetooth or things like that, jump on the Facebook group. Ask your question there, because there are a lot of people who have already gone through this. They have the knowledge and they can help you out a lot quicker than I can, getting back to every direct message. I get a lot of questions every day and I do try and get back to as many as possible, but ultimately I cannot get back to every single one. I am trying to do this channel as well as work full time, and also I have a young family. So if you jump on the Facebook group, that is the best place to ask questions. Now, I will be running more of these Q&As because I think it's a great way that, I can engage with the members of the Facebook group, and I can just put in there, what are your questions with this Square Golf launch monitor? What do you guys want to know? And I can collate those questions and then just do a video just answering off all of them. And hopefully that's going to cover off a lot of things that people are just generally, want answered as well. So if you want to get involved with these Q&As, jump on and join the Joe Legowski Golf Facebook group. Okay, let's get into these questions. Okay, so I had a question about aspect ratios and what aspect ratios you can actually do with this launch monitor. And one of the cool things about this launch monitor is it actually allows you from the application natively to run this in a different aspect ratio. So while you've got this connected to your projector or whatever device you're using, I'll just open up the app now and I can show you guys. But say if your enclosure isn't a perfect 16:9 ratio, when you're using a PC, you can adjust the actual ratio with the NVIDIA graphics card. But what this app allows you to do is I can go to the settings, and then I've got this little slider that says aspect ratio that you can see. And on this, I can just adjust it on the fly. So you can adjust it on the fly. You can go 1 by 1 all the way to the right, and then I can slide it. I can go 1.08 by 1, and I can slide it all the way up to your more traditional aspect ratio of 16:9. So it's pretty cool. In the application, you just literally have a slider bar, and you can slide it to whichever aspect ratio you want, depending on how big your screen is. What's fantastic about this is from the iPad application, you can set it to a 1 by 1, and when you select OK, when you select Go, now you can see it's changed the actual size of that image. So I'll make it, a standard 16:9. You can see that when I select OK. It is still condensed because this is an iPad Pro. But when I jump into the actual course, it fills the screen. So if I go 1 by 1, and then I go OK, and we'll go home, and I'll just jump into a game. I'll go the driving range in graphics mode. And as you can see, I now have a 1 by 1 in the driving range. So I've got black bars on the side of my iPad. So I do love that you can change the aspect ratio natively in the actual application. That is huge. And I don't think I've seen that from any of these, iPad or iOS device applications yet. This is quite forward thinking, and I think this is actually a really good idea from Square to actually incorporate this. So that is the aspect ratio. Yes, you can do a 1 by 1. Okay, let me scroll down to these questions. Okay, so I've got a question from Steve, and it says, how well does it work for chipping compared to the Garmin R10? How does putting compare to webcam putting using the OpenAPI connector like Springbok, that Springbok made? So first off, I'll talk about the chipping compared to the Garmin R10. So I have done chipping tests with both of these units, and I've done an in-depth chipping test with the Square Golf launch monitor. Definitely check out that video. I will link it down below if you want to check out that chipping test. The chipping with the Square Golf launch monitor, in my opinion, is far superior to the Garmin R10. The reason for that is because the Garmin R10 is a radar-based launch monitor. It is a radar-only based launch monitor. It sits behind the golf ball, and radar indoors is not going to be as good as a photometric based system for chipping. The Garmin R10 doesn't do putting. Some launch monitors, radar based launch monitors, do putting, but I can assure you that a photometric based system is going to be far superior for chipping and putting over a radar based unit. In my testing, this Garmin is actually incredible at chipping for what it does. It can register shots down to about 6 feet, which is very, for this unit is quite amazing. With this Square Golf launch monitor, I was able to hit chip shots a lot shorter, around 3 feet, and in my sim room, and they would register in the world. So for chipping, the experience you're going to get from the Square Golf launch monitor is fantastic. It's going to be far superior to the Garmin and also the MLM2 Pro. What about putting? Putting with the Square Golf launch monitor it's insane how good putting is. I still can't wrap my head around how good putting is for this unit for the price. I mean, it's rivaling the iMini, the Pro TVX, GC3s, units that are far more expensive than it, have far more tech. So to me, the putting experience that you're going to get from the Square is unreal. It is made by the people who made the X putt, so it kind of makes sense, but what they've been able to do is quite incredible, with this launch monitor. How's it going to compare to webcam putting? Well, webcam putting is actually, once you dial it in, it is very good. You can watch some of Ben's videos. So Ben from Triple Bogey Golf, he used to have the MLM2 Pro and webcam putting set up. Now, Ben, very technical. He has got it dialed, and I mean proper dialed. He's dialed it in, he's got the ball color correct, he's done everything very methodical. For someone like me, or for someone who's not as technologically, up to date or with the times, it is going to be a lot harder of a process to dial in. Even for me to get webcam putting working was quite tough. So yes, you can get it dialed in to where it's performing really well. However, just know that for most people, they're going to struggle actually getting it, dialed in and working. So in terms of ease of use, the Square is far superior. Yes, you can get it working. However, for most people, they're going to try, they're going to struggle, and they're going to give up. So webcam putting, yes, it does work. Yes, it is fantastic, but you've got to give it time. You've got to take your time, get it set up correctly. I've got another question. So this is from Steve now. It says, how does it compare to the Garmin R10? Is it worth switching? As always, thanks for the content, Joe. Thank you for the comment. And comparing it to the Garmin R10, what we've got to remember is this unit, the Garmin R10, it really started this whole indoor simulator for the everyday person. This was really the catalyst that made people go, hey, I can now have a simulator at home. It opened up home sim to the masses, essentially. So the Garmin R10, for what it did back in the day, and even now what it still does, it's a fantastic unit. But in my opinion, if I've got a Garmin R10 now and I want to play simulated golf, I recommend the Square Golf launch monitor. You can do everything with it. It's going to be able to putt, it's going to be able to chip really well, and also you're going to be able to do full shots. There are limitations though. At the making of this video, I'm still waiting for a spin update to come to the Square. So this is going to get updates and it's going to get better over time. But if I had a Garmin R10 now and I wanted to get a more, full home experience, a full simulator experience, I wouldn't hesitate if I was on a tight budget to get the Square. All right, I've got a question from Chris. It says, backspin, spin axis, high swing speeds. Can you mix swing stick with normal clubs, i.e. have a small roof so you can only use irons? I would love to be able to use a swing stick for driver and woods and use everything else. Okay, so backspin, I think this is questioning, wanting me to talk about the backspin. So backspin numbers, like I said, I've been seeing those high values, the low values. I know there's a spin and spin axis update coming very soon, tomorrow, if not the next day, that's going to address spin and spin axis, so stay tuned for that. I have talked about that a lot, and hopefully with this update, we'll see numbers that are tighter. I'm going to redo my testing. High swing speeds, what I can say is my swing speed is around 110 to 114, so that's kind of where I top out. If you look at the actual website, and the actual limits of this unit. So looking at the tech specs, it says that this unit can go up to 201 miles an hour ball speed. So to get 201 miles an hour ball speed, you've got to be up at around 140 plus swing speed to be able to achieve that. So unless you've got a crazy high swing speed, we're talking, you know, world long drive sort of stuff, it's going to be okay for the masses. The other specs, I'll just go over the other specs just while I'm touching on this. So for full shots, you've got 3.4 miles an hour ball speed to 201.3. For putting, it goes down to 1.1 miles an hour to 17.9 miles an hour. Spin rates are going to go from negative 2,000 to 12,000 RPM. So 12,000 RPM is huge. Side spin's going to go negative 7,000 to 7,000. So if anyone can get the ball to spin that much, maybe Mac Boucher can, I definitely can't. For club path, it's going to be negative 30 to positive 30, attack angle negative 30 to positive 20. Again, no one is going to be hitting 20 up on the ball. Horizontal launch angle is going to be negative 15 to positive 15, so that again is huge. And then elevation, it's talking about vertical launch angle negative 10 to 70. So even on my mega flop, I don't think I've gotten over, I think I got 63 degrees on one of my flop shots, which was just crazy. Can you mix normal clubs with, you know, your other clubs? So I'll jump into the application again. What you can do, at the moment you can't do irons and drivers separately. So what you can do at the moment is you can do your driver and irons, and then you can do your putter separately. So you can actually putt with the proper, you know, putter and ball in your room, so you can separate those. But at the moment, there's only an option to actually use the driver and iron. So in the future, I mean, that's going to be a good update to pose to Square Golf. Just say, hey, can you separate the driver and irons? So then you can choose driver, irons, and putter. You can separate all of them. That might be a good option to propose to Square Golf in the future. And then finally, the two-piece versus three-piece balls. I do have a two-piece ball coming my way, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to be comparing both of them. In my opinion, this unit needs to get some premium golf balls. Pro V1s, you know, TaylorMade TP5X. Hopefully, in the future, we can have, you know, actual premium golf balls that we can use with this device. I think if that happened, you are seriously on for a winner. Okay, next question. We've got one from Phil. A comparison of the MLM2 Pro built-in courses versus the Square built-in courses. I'm guessing you'd have to play a lot of golf to pay as you go on the Square versus $200 a year with the MLM2 Pro. I'm guessing the big one is spin accuracy versus the MLM2 Pro. Is it good enough for the average golfer? Let's have a look at some of the replies. And so what Lorenzo has done is he's broken it down, so that's fantastic. Thank you. And this is why I say the Facebook group's awesome. Join the Facebook group because people are going to answer your questions quicker than I can. So Lorenzo's answered him and said, for the Square, $20 gets you 1,000 credits, 200 yearly subscription gets you 10,000 credits. It's 1 credit per 1 hole. So if you can play 555 rounds for $200. So I mean, if you're going to use their native application, you are definitely going to be better off with the Square. Man, if you can play 555 rounds a year, then you're going to be retired or you need to get a job. So that is fantastic. I love that someone's broken it down. Let's talk comparison between the MLM2 Pro. So to me, I've got that question so much. Should I get the Square? Should I get the MLM2 Pro? These units, it's not the case of one's better than the other. The MLM2 Pro is in a different market. So the MLM2 Pro is going to serve two, purposes. It's going to be an indoor launch monitor when you want it to be. You're also going to be able to take it to the range, and you're going to be able to use it with range balls. It has a range ball mode. It can track the golf ball. You're going to get your video of your swing. You can do a swing speed mode. So the MLM2 Pro is a seriously good device that is going to be for the golfer who wants to take it outdoors as well as use it indoors. The Square Golf Launch Monitor, the Home Edition, is going to be an indoor unit only. You're not going to have the swing speed. It's a unit to basically use as a home simulator. That's what the Square Golf unit is. So they're kind of, to me, they're for different people. And depending on what you want to use the launch monitor for, that's what you should base your purchase on. If you are getting this to only use as a home simulator and that's it, then the Square makes sense because it does everything in the single unit and it does it really well. Yes, there are issues with spin and spin axis at the moment. We're going to get that update. Hopefully that fixes it. I will report on that, but I've spoken to the company and they are they are really focused on getting this thing to read the golf balls perfectly. So they are committed, you know, fingers crossed it does. Comparing them right now before this update, it's obvious. The MLM2 Pro is more accurate at this current point in time. The MLM2 Pro for me it's honestly, I compared it to the GC3 and there really wasn't that much in it. The backspin and spin axis numbers of the MLM2 Pro are fantastic, and I really rate that device and the accuracy of that device. But to me, this question, these devices are for two different people. Okay, moving on. So I've got a question from Jake. Did you by chance connect the GS Pro via the Springbok connector? Would be cool to see how you did it, in hopes of connecting the swing stick in GS Pro. That's actually a good question. I haven't done that yet, but potentially that's something I can look into. Can you imagine me playing my simulator golf tour rounds with the swing stick, hitting those 208 mile an hour, you know, bombs? That would be hilarious. That would definitely get flagged in SGT. Great question. I will have to investigate and I'll have to check that out. I've got another question there asking about the 2-piece ball versus the 3-piece ball. I will get into that. I've got a golf ball coming. Okay, I got a question from Stephen Wright, and he says, what level of ambient light will the unit tolerate before not working as intended? For example, can you use the device during the day with the garage door open? That's a really good question. I haven't tested that. This, after all, is an indoor unit only, and I'm looking through the manual and I can't see anything about ambient light and the actual, you know, amount of light that this unit would stop working. I'm going to say if you're using it with the garage door open, I don't see why it wouldn't work. The only thing it says in the actual manual is it says Square Golf gives you ball and club data by capturing images with high-speed cameras built-in with built-in infrared LED lights. The launch monitor should be set up in a room with little to no sunlight. Additionally, the front of the launch monitor should not directly face sunlight. And so that's the image that it's got on there, and that's kind of the explanation that it has. So to me, that kind of answers it. It says the launch monitor should be set up in a room with little to no sunlight. So again, I'm going to say garage door open, possibly, maybe, maybe not. It's potentially something I'm going to need to test down the line. Okay, so I've got a question from Adam now. It says, hey Joe, have the MLM2 Pro, is it worth switching if I want to putt and not pay the extra cost of 2 subscriptions with GS Pro? That's a great question. Like I said before, these two units, the MLM2 Pro and the Square Golf Launch Monitor, in my opinion, are for two different people. If you are setting this up with the intent of only using it as a home simulator, then I think the Square is the device you should pick. If you are using this half the time at the range, half the time at home, and you want to take it outside, then obviously the Square Home Edition is not the one you want to get. The MLM2 Pro is going to be a far better option. On these two extra costs, so I haven't spoken to Square about this, but right now on the beta version of the connector, the connection to GS Pro is free. However, I don't know if it's going to stay free. I hope it does, but I just don't know if it's going to stay free. I will reach out to Square and I will ask that question directly. I have fingers crossed. Hopefully it does stay free. And if not, we can always revert back to using the Springbok connector. But at the making of this video, it is free, so hopefully it stays that way. Okay, so I've got a question from Dean. It says, a content creator used regular balls using the reflective stickers for club data. Apparently with club data, you can get spin and spin axis numbers. The spin numbers were within reason according to the content creator. Perhaps not 100%, but reasonable for sim golf was his take. My Square launch monitor should be arriving around the 29th of November. I'll test myself, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So, straight from the manual, you do have a chart, and it says, with club data and ball data. So you can use a normal golf ball. The actual backspin is going to be estimated. So I'll put it up on screen so you guys can see, but with ball markings, you're going to get everything calculated. If we're talking about golf balls, when you use a normal golf ball, you are going to get estimated backspin and also estimated side spin. So yes, you are going to get data with using a normal golf ball. However, just know that it is estimated data. So we're going to essentially be using a Garmin R10 without the RCT golf ball. That's what you're going to get. I will test this and I will give numbers, but what I can say is I have tested this. I just haven't made a video on it, and my spin numbers and spin axis was off. It wasn't correct all the time, and with the backspin numbers, I got some low spin bombs. Like I'm talking 7-irons that flew 200 yards. So yes, it can estimate the data, but to me, I would rather use a marked ball, so then I get the actual calculated spin and backspin. And spin axis, sorry. Okay, I got a question from Marty. This is gonna open up a can of worms. Possibly a heads up recommendation, i.e. Square over Garmin R10, EML, Skytrack Plus, Rapsoda, etc. like a ranking. Okay, so Marty's done his ranking there, and what I will say is, for indoor use, this is where I've got a video and it talks about picking a launch monitor. I'll leave it in the link in the description, but when you're going to pick a launch monitor, first off, it comes down to budget, and then the next one I talk about is what you're actually going to use the device for. Are you going to be using this thing outdoors as well as indoors? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself to ultimately lead yourself to the answer of what launch monitor you should buy. Because I could give my rankings, and my rankings for what I use my launch monitors for are going to be based on an indoor simulator environment. So I rate the Square Golf launch monitor because that's exactly what it's designed for. But someone else might use their device 90% outside and then only use it 10% inside. So their rankings are going to be very different, with what they value. Maybe they want more club data, whereas I just want accurate ball data in an indoor environment. For me, that is a very open-ended question depending on what you actually want to use the launch monitor for. Check out that video. I talk through a buying process and the questions you should be asking yourself before purchasing. Okay, I got a question from Steve, kind of more of a comment, but he says, I received my Square today. I've had the R10 for 3 years. I spent about 30 minutes with the R10 on GS Pro and the Square on its driving range. Same shot comparison. The Square side spin / spin axis was noticeably greater. Can you do a direct comparison between R10 and Square? Yeah, that's possibly something I could do in the future, but I don't know what that video is going to give other than me talking about what I feel. And to me, the R10 is not great for spin axis, so I would give much greater confidence to the actual Square for spin axis. I have noticed when I used to use the R10, it did not shape the shot much. And to me, the shot shapes weren't that accurate. They were accurate with irons most of the time, but realistically, the Garmin is ultimately always estimating spin axis or side spin. So it has to be taken with a grain of salt. To me, I would put much more confidence in the Square unit. But yeah, that's potentially something I can test in the future. Question from Alistair. What improvements would you like to see in the native app? Well, there's quite a lot, and I'm not going to talk about it in this video because there's quite a lot of things that I'd like to see. I think they've done a great job with the native app so far. We do have a place to practice putting, we've got a place to practice chipping or pitching, we've got a driving range, and then we also have the courses that actually look pretty good. I do think there's room for improvement. Quickly touching on it, I think, bag mapping, for instance, a wedge matrix section, a place where you can go and compare things. So think the Awesome Golf coaching section where you can select different clubs and then compare different clubs and balls, etc. There's a lot of things that they could do to the native app that potentially in the future they will, but I think there's a lot of things that they could add. Question from Craig. Will the RPT balls consistently give accurate spin comparable to the Square dotted balls? No. So the actual Square golf unit needs the Square pattern to actually give accurate spin and spin axis. So using an RPT ball won't work. They were very clear when I talked to them saying that the Square needs the actual pattern to actually read spin and spin axis correctly. So RPT balls, although they do have dots, are not going to work with this unit, so you're going to get estimated spin and spin axis. If you had to choose which one you would keep, the MLM2 Pro or Square, come on, Jonathan. That is such a tough question, and it's the thing. Well, for me, it's probably pretty obvious because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 units that I could choose right now that I could have photometric-based launch monitors inside. So for me, I'd choose the MLM2 Pro because it's the one that I take outside when I use on the range. If I didn't have any of those, if I only had those 2 units, for me personally, it makes sense for me to use the Square because it does putting, it does chipping, and it does full shots. So it's a tough question. Mind you, saying that, I could use the MLM2 Pro on my X-Part, so there's that option as well. That's such a tough question. I got a question from Neil. Are they available in Australia? And I will open this up and I'll show you Sam's reply. You'll hear back hopefully next week. Stay tuned, some exciting things coming. Potentially these things are coming to Australia. Stay tuned. While I'm on this question, I will give a shout out to Sam from Bayside Golf. In Australia, we really struggle to get units. And so me and Sam do have a vision where we want to bring the best launch monitors we can to Australia. And so hopefully, fingers crossed, we will hear next week whether Australia is going to start stocking these, whether Bayside's going to start stocking them. So stay tuned. Okay, got a question from Anthony. Can you try putting normal Pro V1 balls and putting the club stickers on? I know it would then estimate spin, but it'd be interesting to see how accurate the numbers come out, as it would be a huge benefit if we did not need dotted balls. Which was your biggest gripe in the first Square video? You could potentially compare it to the MLM2 Pro with RPT balls, as it may not interfere with the Square. So what I'll say is I think I've figured out a way to compare the GC3 to the Square. So stay tuned. I think it works most of the time. I'm waiting for the new update to drop for the Square so I can actually test them side by side. There's no point in doing one now because I already know spin values fluctuate, and so does spin axis. So stay tuned. After the update, I'll hopefully be comparing them side by side. I will be comparing a normal golf ball though, and I'll play GS Pro with a normal golf ball so you guys can see exactly what it's like with a normal golf ball when it gives the estimated spin and spin axis. Okay, question from Bryce. I set mine up, it was unreal, but I've had a few that say ready in GS Pro but then don't read. Yes, it is. What's annoying is with GS Pro, you don't get the little rectangle or little square, sorry, to say where the actual hitting area is so you can visually see it. You do have the green LED light on top of the unit though that will actually indicate whether the unit's ready. So pay attention to that green light. You are going to get no reads, I'm assuming. You're going to get misreads. It is what it is. But I don't think I've seen that where it said ready and then it hasn't read. The next part of Bryce's question was, it talks about the connector. It says connected in the connector, but a turn off and on sometimes works. Do I need the Bluetooth cable and dongle? Also, when I do the alignment stick, it doesn't pick it up. So I'll talk about the alignment stick first. So when you do the alignment stick, you don't put the alignment stick in the hitting area. You actually put it perfectly in line with the unit. As soon as you put it perfectly in line with the unit, it'll pick up the stick. So that's the stick taken care of. The next thing about the connection, I have had to use this Bluetooth dongle and adapter, and even now it's still not perfect. It still doesn't connect up every single time. The first time I have to restart my computer and then it connects. I don't know why. It is still in beta, the connector though, so I mean, stay tuned. Hopefully when this thing is officially released, it will have all the bugs and all the issues sorted out. Okay, so that is the Q&A with the Square Golf launch monitor. I do have a few things to test from that, and I hope I answered most of your questions. What I'll do is I will also link the actual user manual in the description below. So if you want to go in and look for yourself exactly what you're getting, that might answer some of your questions as well. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Stay tuned for more Q&As because I do feel like it's a good way to actually answer a lot of questions just in a video. Okay, that's it for this one. Any comments or questions, leave them down below and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.